Welcome to episode 16 of the Tri-State Hockey Podcast presented by Novig. I'm your host, Jonny Lazarus, joined by my good friends, longtime NHL reporter Arthur Staple and Stanley Cup champion Mike Rupp. No time to waste, fellas. We spoke on Friday, but holy hell has a lot of shit happened with all three teams since. I mean, crazy game with Matthew Schaefer for the Islanders, the Rangers with a huge win in the Winter Classic, and the Devils have reached their boiling point. This is going to be a big-time Devils conversation to start off the show. We got a lot of voicemails to get to. The voicemails are going to drive the entire show today. We have a bunch from Devils fans, a bunch from Islanders fans, and Rangers fans as well. So I don't know if you guys want to give a quick thought, but why don't we just kick it to the voicemails right away? Yeah.
Let's get to them.
All right. So first voicemail is from Penelope.
Hi, this is Penelope from Jersey. I'm not sure if this is going to make air, but I just wanted to say that not all of the Devils fans were represented the other night when Luke was booed for half of the game. A lot of us do not like that behavior and are very disappointed, and I just hope that it can be known that we don't condone that behavior, and I just feel bad on behalf of us Devils fans who would not do that. So, yeah.
Which one of you guys wants to take this one?
Rupper, you were there. You go for it, man.
Yeah, so thanks for the call, Penelope. Everybody that I spoke to, it's kind of funny because it was a very loud building that was booing, but it was not everybody in that building. There's quite a few people. There's actually there's a few people that came up to set as the game progressed and were talking to me and saying, this is garbage. I'm embarrassed to be a Devils fan because of this moment and a bunch of stuff. So it's not everybody. So the smart ones did not boo, because the ones that did, I mean, I'm dumbfounded. This was happening in the game, and I'm thinking to myself,
so happy you're on the broadcast, by the way.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is happening right now? I'm like, okay, that was a shift. I didn't like it, but whatever. Then it happens again and again and again. And I was getting upset about it because, first off, it's stupid. It's stupid because here's where you're at in the game. You're down 2-1 in the game. Okay. You have 3 power plays in a row at that end of that second period. We got boom, boom, boom. I get it. Those 2 goals, it's very clear what happened on them. Okay. But you've got that kid. That's something we got to remind ourselves through this. He's a 22-year-old kid, and he is out there on the ice, and he's trying to get the game-tying goal. Nico Hischier said it in post-game, like, it's still a 2-1 game when this is going on. So he's going back, retrieving the puck on the power play, lugging the puck up the ice. And how idiotic is it for a fan base, not all, but the ones that were doing it, where you're going to sit there and you're going to boo this player that you're booing this player that's holding the puck on his stick, that you're hoping that his next play puts the puck in the back of the net. Like, that is fucking ridiculous for me to wrap my mind around. You know what I'm saying? Like, could we at least pick a lane here? So what, you didn't like what happened? You want the Devils to lose? Like, I don't understand what we're doing here, but I also think there's been a much, 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 much more egregious things that have happened in New York sports. Let's make this a little bit bigger, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, hockey over the years. We've had bad contracts. We've had guys that have struggled with production to live up to contracts. We've had shitbags, some bad dudes that they don't get booed. You're going to pick this one? This is the one you're going to boo. Guys, I've never seen anything like it. It was so distasteful, in my opinion. I was pissed. I was pissed.
I was fighting Devils fans defending their guy. Like, I've never had a battle like that online in my life. But I want to make one thing clear, too, because a lot of fans were saying to me, what are we supposed to do? Coddle him? I'm sick and tired of the Hughes brothers not getting any accountability. That's not accountability. That's piling on. And I'm not sitting here saying, oh, you got to clap for Luke Hughes and encourage him and try to cheer him up. But what is booing him going to do to help? Like, to your point, Rupper, like, what good does that do? I don't understand it. Like, you know, if a player calls out fans, if a player is just an older veteran player who's just there to collect a paycheck, sure. But this is a young kid who cares, who tries, who plays hard, and he made a couple of mistakes. And the first goal, that's just a bad bounce. That's like that happens to a lot of guys. To a lot of guys.
It almost happens on a night-to-night basis in the NHL. Like it's a very common play on the first one.
I can't say that I'd seen that before. And, I understand in the moment, everybody's not thinking clearly, but I also kind of had that feeling of like, and to Penelope's point, I would hope next time the Devils are home that this guy gets a route, like give him a standing ovation when he steps on the ice this time. Make sure that the fans that feel positively about this kid and want him to succeed are the ones that you hear. It felt like one of those things in the moment where people kind of did it, and maybe it's a goof, the first couple guys that do it, and then people pile on for whatever reason. And it's just like, it can only have a bad outcome, especially if it continues at all. This kid just signed for 8 years. Brother is the star player on the team. You came close, not close enough, but close to getting the other supremely talented brother on the team. You still want to have the other brother here in 27. They boo this kid through the year. And and I see people saying, like, responding to you, Johnny, like, oh, he's having a shit year. Like, so what? As Rupp said, he's 22. He's played a quarter of the season on his offside, playing 25 minutes a night. This is it's just a dumb spot to be in. And I know I hate telling fans how to be fans. And yes, you can boo. And when you see your team get, fans boo their team off the ice when they play like shit, I got no problem with that.
Yeah.
Singling out one guy, especially that important a guy, bonkers to me.
Mm-hmm.
No, he's, and I think that's where it's at. And again, I want to be very clear because my fondest memory in hockey is with this fan base. And this is a great fan base. They can get loud. And this is, I don't know what the percentage is. I'm not going to throw, I was at 80% probably don't feel this way, or maybe it's even more than that. But the ones that did, that's why what you just said, Arthur, I'd love to see it. Whether it doesn't have to be a standing ovation. When he touches the puck, how about a little getting loud for Luke moving forward here for a game or so? Because did you watch the post game? Did you watch how he handled himself? He seemed very nervous. And again, I want to remind, it's a kid. So you can talk about all the money in the world that he has, the contract he has. This kid's been asked to do a lot of different things. And am I giving him a free pass? Absolutely not. Like that was, it was a rough night. It could have been actually 3. The other one, he's trying to break up a pass. Jake Allen makes a huge glove save. It was a terrible night for him. You don't think he knows this and realizes this. And I just think that when you're sitting there, this is a player that he's not even 200 games into his NHL career. It's been pretty damn good. Asked to do a lot, and he's going to be a future pillar. He is already for this franchise. And I just think back, like, it's the best defenseman this organization has had since, I'd argue, Scott Niedermayer. I would say that now. Like, this kid is that good, and he's going to be that good. So it's just a weird place to place the frustration. Frustration, do you have it? Absolutely. I'm frustrated watching this team this year, but that's the wrong place, man. And I think you can make it right moving forward to the next game. But the last thing I just want to say, and you guys have both been in the rooms, he doesn't have to do Mediaville. And for the fans and the viewers that don't know how it works. So I would argue this, Arthur, I'd love to get your expertise on this. I would say most teams in the league would not have made him available post-game from a game that happened like that, and for the ramifications, everything that was happening on the ice. So street cred to the New Jersey Devils PR department. They went out there, they did the right thing. They got him to go, whether they got him or whatever. But there's the other part. The players, we don't ever have to talk. If we don't want to, it's in the CBA. We have to make yourself available, but you could pick and choose your spots. I've seen star players, I've seen role players come off the ice and say, I'm not talking today. I'm pissed. I'm not talking today. This didn't go well, or whatever. And it happens all the time. The fact that he was there taking those questions post-game was because Luke wanted to be there. So again, a kid that's showing a lot of balls in the way he handled that post-game. I love that part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
I would say probably 30 out of 32 teams definitely do not make him available. And you also know, I saw it was noted Nico Hischier wasn't on the board of people that were requested or that the Devils wanted to have speak. He came out and spoke too. It's captain there, taking charge of his room and saying, "We got this guy's back." Sheldon Keefe, same thing. We got this guy's back, and you don't want it to be like a galvanizing moment for them. You don't want it. The motivating factor shouldn't be we hate our fucking fans. Like that's insane. But there's guys 10 years older than Luke Hughes who wouldn't have come out to speak. They would have waited maybe for an off day, less media, less emotion around it. And he did look like, I'm sure people would want to read into it. Like you said, he looked nervous. Maybe, people saying, oh, he didn't want to be there. He was forced to be there. Nobody is forced to be in that room to talk after a game. Nobody. And good on him. I think that goes a long way. And I think even the fans that were booing him should understand, like, guys having a rough week, rough season, whatever, and they are still facing the music like that at 22. That's a guy you want on your team, because when it turns around,
100%.
He's going to have the respect of his teammates. He's not making them answer for his mistakes. I think for the fans that want to support him, same thing. So yeah, to me, the way the team and the way that Luke handled it was the best way possible, for sure.
And last thing I'll say before we get into our next voicemail, which I believe is from Anthony, the Devils fans, or the fans that were saying, like, a lot of fans were calling me soft for saying, are we seriously booing a 22-year-old kid? Does it make you tough or make you hard to boo a guy on your own team? Like, is that where we're at? Like, is that what the cool thing and the tough thing to do is? Like,
to me, I don't know, man. This is we talked about that. We talked about this before we started doing this podcast, and what makes this really unique. And I didn't grow up in this area, but I love this area. I live here now. The New York sports fan, and that's what I'll call this entire area. And it's a unique place. It's a place that you fall in love with sports, and you live and die, and you breathe every breath with those teams. I get it. There's New York tough fans, and this wasn't it. No. That wasn't it. And I don't know if it was a bunch of phony fans that are trying to be like, oh, we demand more. We're New York City. We're New Jersey. Like, no. Like, come on, man. Like, think of some of the stuff that we've seen. As bad as things got with Jacob Trouba and the Rangers, and they thought that he was holding them hostage. Pretty sure they didn't boo him every time he touched the puck. Did they once in a while when Jacob Trouba? Yeah, they let him know. And we know how that went. But this was just something I'd never seen before. I hope we never see it again. I just think it was a bunch of knuckleheads, but it was enough because it was loud. It wasn't just a few. It wasn't just one section, one moron in one section that got everybody going. The place is pretty loud doing it. So I don't know.
Yeah. Let's get into our next voicemail from Anthony. I think we have 3 different Luke Hughes voicemails. So this is going to be an ongoing conversation for probably another 10 minutes or so.
What's up, guys? Thanks for taking all these crazy calls every week. I definitely don't think all those boos were deserved for Luke last night. Maybe 1 or 2, but definitely not 10. But it definitely comes from all these fans being pretty fed up with whatever's going on. You can blame injuries the past couple years, but this team has just been so inconsistent. They come out flat so many games, letting up the first goal for multiple years. They can't string back-to-back wins for I don't know how many years now.
8 in a row earlier this year.
Really just look awful when teams play them tight and physical, and they can't play that open ice type of game. I know you guys have spoke about a shakeup, but does that shakeup start with the front office? I mean, I guess it's a blessing and curse that Fitz is so patient, but I mean, how much longer do you let this just unravel? It's just been too many years of just inconsistencies. They start off so hot every season. People have them all hyped up as a playoff favorite, and then this is the only consistent thing about them. They just crumble mid-season every year. So where does the shakeup start? Thanks, guys.
You can always chant.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, I feel like something that's inbounds that you're frustrated about, chant fire Fitzy. Like if that's how you feel, if the team is disappointing the hell out of you, we've seen it at the Garden with GMs. We've seen it everywhere. You know, the GM is fair game. Maybe the coach is fair game. I don't think in this situation it is.
They did the fire Lindy thing a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Where'd that get them?
That was after, I think that was after game 1. If I recall,
Yeah, it
it was
might
like
have
one of the
been.
first
Yeah.
3 games of the season. But
I think it might have been.
Right. So I will say this, and we've talked about Fitzy not really doing any media since the beginning of the season, coming through all of the, you know, the highs and then the lows. Now, on the heels of this, might not be a bad time for someone from management. Fitzy, I know ownership is not really like public speaking types, but Fitzy to come out, defend his guy, say, take the heat for himself. Say, the failures that we've had are on me. The roster hasn't been good enough. We need to figure some things out. It doesn't have to be a long interview. It doesn't have to be an hour-long grilling from the media, but it wouldn't be a bad move right now on the heels of this. If that really, you know, if Anthony's feeling is correct, that this is just misguided frustration with everybody, that they just piled on one guy. Mm-hmm. I would want to see Fitzy come out and just kind of speak for 10 or 15 minutes, say how important Luke Hughes is to the team, say, I've messed up. If someone is you want to point the finger at me, and we're trying to figure it out, or whatever other details he wants to give. But I don't know. I really do believe that it's kind of one of those in the moment mass hysteria type things. And fans, it happens with them. Sometimes you see it when a guy gets really hurt and they boo him if he's hurt because they think he's faking or whatever, like things that you would wish you could have back after you do it, after it comes out, and you kind of snap out of it and say, geez, I didn't mean for it to be like that. I would hope that's the situation here. And we all totally get the frustration with the franchise, because whatever it is now, 6-11-1 in the last 18 or something like that. It's nowhere near good enough, and the opportunity's there, and they're relatively healthy now, and they could use a shakeup, all these different things. And it's, none of those things that I'm naming off the fans should be frustrated about have anything to do with Luke Hughes, in my opinion. So,
well, that's what so I have a question for you, because I felt the same way. I felt this was a boiling point and misplaced anger. Luke Hughes was the low-hanging fruit last night, obviously, but because of his contract and last name, like, that's why I think it was escalated. I don't think if Arseny Gritsuk has 2 own goals, I don't think he's getting booed when he touches the puck.
Right, true.
I don't think that's the case, but to me, it just felt like anger that has been boiling and boiling up, that fans just let it out when they had a clear reason to be upset about something so specific in a game, and Luke Hughes just happened to be the culprit of it on a bad night. Wrong place, wrong time. That's kind of what it feels like, or at least the way I kind of took it.
Yeah, I think it was kind of the perfect storm. I think in some regards, it's not to tell everybody, oh, we understand why you did it. We've already established that. I don't understand, but I can understand the frustration because of what's built up the last number of years, what this team has shown they can be, where they've fallen short. But I also think who they played last night matters as well. I think this is the Carolina Hurricanes and New Jersey Devils. There's no love lost on both sides. Those fan bases hate each other. And it's been kind of this budding rivalry here for a little bit. As far as their run-ins, they've had moments. You could say the same thing with the Rangers and Canes, and you can go on and on. That's the great thing about the Metropolitan Division. It doesn't just stop with the teams that are kind of revered as rivals, but just kind of created that atmosphere where enough was enough last night. I don't know, to answer the caller, something's got to give, but we've touched on that. There's some obstacles in the way, and I think they're trying to figure those things out. I think you got to have some dancing partners too around the league, and that has kind of taken a step back. So I'm just not. I'm still waiting to evaluate what decisions are made when decisions are made. And I would be shocked. There's no chance that nothing is done before this trade deadline, unless, of course, the bottom just falls out of this team
and then mail it in
more.
Yeah.
And then that's their answer kind of right there. But even at that, I still think you're shaking things up. So I'm still being patient here. Something has to be done. I want to be clear on that. But I'll wait until that happens. I don't want a knee-jerk reaction in this process. And it dates me back, and I know I've said it on here before, is back when they had the goaltending issues years ago. And it was like, you need to make a trade for Connor Hellebuck and give him that extension before he signed an extension in Winnipeg. And Connor Hellebuck has won 2 back-to-back Vezinas and a Hart Trophy. I still think that was the right move not to make that deal. And you would have traded off these futures. You're going to do this thing, have this goaltender that's much older, and you don't know where it's going to go. And hindsight being 2020, yes, he is a fantastic goaltender still. But I just think that being patient is a good thing. But we're starting to get to the point now. Something has to be done, and I'm going to wait to see what is.
Yeah. We have one more Luke Hughes voicemail. I believe this is from Singsy, and then we'll move on into Ranger stuff.
Hey, guys, it's Singsy. Holy crap. What are you going to do about Luke Hughes? Look, I love the guy. I think he's uber talented. For some reason, he loves to spin back towards the goaltender and do a lot of east-west as opposed to north-south. Look, I think you sit him for a game. I think some kind of message needs to get sent. I know his confidence is probably, mismatched for what's going on right now on the ice, but you got to do something here. I love him. He's young. Send a message. Drive on. All right, boys. Thanks a bunch.
Love Singsy. Couldn't disagree more. I think sitting him for a game only escalates this further. Sheldon Keefe kind of came out and said it last night, like, I'm not going to bench Luke Hughes. He's a high-risk player, and a lot of the times those plays he makes, they work out. And fans can have it both ways, where if he makes that play, you cheer, but if he doesn't make that play, it's just, you want to encourage your young guys to have confidence. And I think after last night, sitting him for a game only diminishes his confidence even more. So I love the way Sheldon Keefe also handled this whole situation. He didn't really call Luke out. He had Luke's back. He played Luke. And yeah, I just don't know if that's the right way to go about it from Singsy's perspective.
You can't give the fans a vote ever. Like you just can't, and that's what it would look like here. So
they're also on the road, by the way, their next couple games, which helps.
I know they're on the island, so there could be some Devil fans. If the Islander fans were smart, they'd start booing Luke Hughes.
Yeah, they should.
So we'll see if they do that. But you can't. I mean, fans can do what they do. They can chant, fire the coach, fire the GM. They can put up billboards. They can fly planes over the stadium, whatever. But you can't give them a vote. And I say that with love to all the fans that watch our show and interact with us. Your opinions are always valid and welcome, but the teams operate separate from that. And you can't legitimize what happened the other night, even if it was a small minority, because, benching him means you're suddenly given it's like the gladiators in old, the Coliseum. You're giving the thumbs up, thumbs down to the crowd. You can't do that.
Mm-hmm. Rubber?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think you mentioned it. I thought Sheldon Keefe handled the post game awesome in the way he handled it. And see, here's the thing though: if Devil fans, you think back to the Washington Capital game, do you remember the turnover Jack had where he was turning? He's actually trying to pass the puck. Very, very similar esque. And here's the thing where I'm at. This is all part of the learning process. And I get it where it happened. And the first goal, we parked that one already. Those things happen. You could tell by the look on his face. He's like, what the heck? Props to Jake Allen, too, the way he handled himself post-game. But even after that goal comes out after goal 1, and you see him talking to Luke. So I love the veterans, how they seem to step up and get close to Luke through last night's game. Now, the second one is very similar to what Jack did against Washington. And here's where I think when your best players are a little more calculated, there's a fine line because Sheldon talked about it. You have to allow them to make plays. You have to allow them to do that play 10 times. It's probably 10 times he's not going to do what happened in that game where he's wheeling back and just kind of loses it and Taylor Hall gets that goal.
Mm-hmm. Also, a great play by Taylor Hall. Like, that should be said.
Yes, just hounding on him, jumping on him, and staying on him. And so, but my point in this is that you've got to allow if you want to see the upside of these talented players, you've got to be open to having moments like that. And with that being said, I think it's just the next step, I think, for this franchise and those young players, and I'll put Jack in this category too, because I love him. I've created more online battles sticking up for Jack Hughes, and I love it because I love him as a player. He's got to start, both of them have to start being a little more selective in the game situation, where we're at in the game, where we are on the ice with the puck. And it's not always about thinking to make that play. It depends where you're located on the ice, if that makes any sense. So
Yeah.
Jack, the same situation, was in front of his own net, and he's trying to go to his forehand and wheel up ice. Same exact thing that Luke was doing right there. And in that moment, don't think about making the play. Think about surviving this play. Like that's just a little mental shift. Now, when you're talking out in the neutral zone, red line to the offensive side of the ice, I don't even care. You be creative and take those chances all day long. But in those moments, that's part of growth and development. There's so many young, super, super talented players in this league that do that. And it's like the difference of winning and losing is starting to lose some of those parts of the game. So that was just an area, like, it's a teaching moment. He knows, but his brother did it too. And so these great players, sometimes to be great, you gotta live with some of these moments, and that's all that was.
Any final thoughts on the Devils before we switch gears and move Rangers? No?
No.
Okay, just got to do one thing before we get to our first Ranger voicemail. Arthur, if you don't mind. In the spirit of the Winter Classic, got to switch hats, get Arthur's favorite hat back on. Let's play our first Ranger voicemail from Kaylee.
Hey guys, I was at the Winter Classic this week with family and friends, and a lot of them called me crazy for saying that Fox is the best player on the Rangers, minus maybe Igor. And I tried to explain how his expected goals for has been above 50% almost all of his years with the Rangers, and his D partners are statistically better playing with him than without him. But a lot of them just kind of looked at me and were like, but he's not physical, but I never notice him, but he's slow. So I was wondering, what's a better way, maybe rather than using statistics, to explain what makes Fox such an elite defenseman in the NHL? Thanks, guys.
It's a great question. It's hard too, because I would say, like, Fox is a guy, what makes him so elite is that he doesn't have plays typically like the ones we saw with Luke Hughes the other night. Like, he knows exactly when to hold on to the puck, when to get rid of the puck, and you never see him really trying to do too much. You know, a lot of defensemen, especially the highly skilled ones, sometimes, they're handcuffing themselves by stick handling too much or trying to make something out of nothing. Fox is never really one to do that. Like, he can play the game so well just because he makes the simple, easy decision 9 times out of 10. And I think that is what makes him an elite guy. It's his puck moving. It's his the way he reads the game when he steps in front of a pass and picks it off and leads the Rangers going the other way on the counterattack. Like, it's not something that jumps off the screen or jumps off the ice at someone who's watching a game. But if you really just focus on the one guy, it's like, wow, he really does not make the wrong decisions very often. And that's how I'd say he is elite. It's nothing physical. It's just the way he thinks the game.
So yeah, I would say,
go ahead,
Arthur. I'll be quick, and I won't get to you. The thing with Adam Fox that jumps out to me, and we talked about this last episode, is this is going to be an endorsement of Adam Fox. It's not going to sound like it for a moment, but doesn't have a great shot, isn't a great skater, isn't very big, isn't very strong, doesn't really get inside and battle, but he's a hell of a hockey player because his intellect is on a different level. He has full inventory on the ice of his teammates and the opposing team's teammates, and he's got this extremely, extremely long wick. In that wick, you talk about composure. Johnny, you played the position. As a young age, some of the best defensemen at a young age were the ones that would just not be, once you're under pressure, not give up the puck, not make a frantic decision, turn over the puck, and just kind of elusive. find ways to drag plays out and get players out of position. And even if you're not even intending on doing that, just you hanging on the puck will innately do that. And Adam Fox does that at the National Hockey League level. So that's where his biggest strength is for me. But with that strength of his, it can be revered as a frustrating point at times because there doesn't seem to be another gear. There doesn't seem to be, hey, I want him to battle more, or the way he kind of just carries himself might frustrate some people. But this goes off the same way that we just talked about Luke Hughes, where you can't take all of these components of players. You can't sit there and say, Connor McDavid is no one skates like him. He's amazing. His processor, blah, blah, blah. And then Connor's stick handles so fast he loses the puck and you'd be like, oh, what an idiot. Like, no, man. Like the strengths are the strengths. And sometimes those things, you got to live with maybe the negative side of it or what's perceived as that. But Adam Fox, I think you're pretty bang on there. I think outside of Igor Sturkin, I think he is their most talented player. And just the way he can change a game by slowing it down and just picking you apart with his mind.
I want to ask you both something, if I may, Arthur. If you want to get your piece in quick, but
no, go ahead.
I don't know if you saw me chuckling while Rupper was talking, but I'll ask you both. What does a defenseman do if they have the puck in their own zone in a panic situation? What's the first play that they make typically?
Panics, throw it off the middle usually.
Off the glass and out, like is typically high off the glass. Like when in doubt, glass and out. Like that's kind of what the saying is when you're growing up. So I think it's well documented at this point. I've known Adam since he's 10 years old. I know his family very well. I just pulled up an old interview I did with his dad, Bruce, one that I wrote, my first day on the job. But I asked Bruce, and I have it like written right here. That's why I was chuckling. I was like, I got to say this on the show. I said, Adam has overcome a lot throughout his career. Is there one saying or one piece of advice that you give him that sticks with him? And Bruce said, the only thing I remember is one time he had a coach that told him to flip it off the glass and out, old school. And I told him, you never, ever go glass and out. I don't care what the coach tells you. And Adam Fox, honestly, we speak about Adam Fox never really panicking. I don't really recall Adam going glass and out very often. Like he always just makes the right play for a clean breakout. And sometimes coaches do advise the glass and out, or as we see now, Mike Sullivan with the punt and hunt. And Fox will do that high flip, but he rarely does go glass and out because he's never panicking. He always, being able to slow the game down is sometimes a good thing, and I think I credit Adam a lot for that. And I just wanted to share that because I think it's just so funny when, a father, the way they can influence a kid. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off though, Arthur, if you had something you want to say.
I'm good. I mean, you guys all made good points. And I think just, even if you want to do basic counting stats, the consistency of this guy, that he's basically been a point per game guy the last, 6 years as a defenseman. And I understand, there's other guys in the league you could point to, like an Evan Bouchard, who can be liabilities at 5-on-5 when they're not piling up power play points. But, Fox comes back from whatever, missing a month with a shoulder, gets 1-1 against Washington. Like, he impacts the game and he plays, you look at those basic stats. He's played 23, 24, 25 minutes a night for the last 5 years, 60, 70 points the last 5 years. Like that's just hard to do at this level. So you have to dig in too deep to the metrics, which are also good, but even just the basic stats are good evidence that this guy is one of the top level players in the league.
We have another Ranger. Sorry. Go.
No, Arthur brought up a great point because when you mentioned Evan Bouchard, and then I started thinking to myself, anybody that's in the point category of an Adam Fox, outside of Cale Makar and outside of Quinn Hughes, because there's not many that would be in that category. Because generally speaking, Miro Heiskanen, who I'm very bullish on, he's not really to the point production as an Adam Fox, so I kind of leave him out of this. But anybody who is, there ain't much defense being played. Adam does play defense.
Yeah.
Adam Fox is a very smart, intellectual defenseman. It might look different than what you would regard as being hard to play against and tough defense, but he does very well in that standpoint. So you mentioned Evan Bouchard. I think of like an Erik Karlsson. Some of these guys, even going back a little bit on some of the guys, like he's a rarity. You don't get that point production with that sound defense in the National Hockey League. He certainly brings it.
Mm-hmm. We have another voicemail. I think we have 2 more Ranger voicemails, maybe 3. But this next one is from friend of the show, Matt Mugno.
Matty Muggs, all right.
What's up, Tri-State Hockey? It's Matt Mugno. I'd say friend of the pod, maybe more so for Arthur, not as much Johnny. Jokes. Rupper, I'll have you on the pod soon enough and we'll meet and stuff. But I want to hear Johnny's most pessimistic take about the New York Rangers and Arthur's most optimistic take. Felt like that would be kind of a fun one. And also I'd like to hear where the spectrum is for you guys right now after another seemingly momentum swinging game with the Winter Classic. I'm sure this episode will probably be a lot of talk about the Luke Hughes situation last night and Schaefer's dominance against Toronto, but figured this is the ballpark for Johnny, and I know all 3 of you have been involved with Rangers coverage. So, yeah.
Pretty spot on call. So well done, Maddie. But I'll say my negative take on the Rangers is what is the direction they're going in, and they're too slow to win a Stanley Cup. So that to me seems like it's pretty negative and pretty fair. And Arthur, maybe you can give a positive.
My positive is no matter what has happened with this team the last few years, for me, Igor Shesterkin is the best money goalie in the league. I understand that he hasn't gotten them to the promised land in their 2 deep playoff runs, and I get that Ranger fans are super spoiled because they've had this incredible 30-year run of above average goaltending going back to Mike Richter in the Stanley Cup year. But this guy is for real. He is as consistent as they come. His numbers even this year, still, Vezina finalist for me. I got all the time in the world for Igor Shesterkin, and I think he's worth every penny. I disagree with the fans that say he wasn't worth that contract. You can build around this guy, and with if they can get their act together and put a decent group in front of him that can prevent chances and score goals, I still think this team could have something going. So that's as optimistic as I'll get.
Rupper, do you want to contribute? I don't know if Matt really cares about you though.
Oh, I think you guys nailed it. We had 1 negative, 1 positive, so we'll keep it moving.
Yeah, we do have another Matt who left a voicemail too, so let's get to that one. And again, we want to really just highlight all the people that are calling in, taking their time to leave us messages. We really love it, and I think that's a great part of the show. So let's get to Matt.
Hey guys, love the show. Big Ranger fan here. My question is, with this roster, where do you think they're going? I feel like this team is stuck in the middle. They're getting to a point where they're kind of in no man's land because you've got these veterans. You bring in JT Miller last year, which at the time I liked. Obviously, you extend Igor, so you're paying him a ton of money, which again, you're paying an all-world goalie. He's vital to the team. But now you've got a ton of veterans with those guys, and then Zibanejad and Trocheck, and then you got contracts that you can't move. Now the talk is you're really a middling franchise at this point. Do you trade Panarin? It doesn't seem like they have the appetite to extend him. I guess we'll see what happens in the summer. But it just seems like they're caught in the middle. Their youth is not developing, so it seems like they're either drafting poorly or they're not developing their players. But where do they go from here? Do you pay Panarin and you just continue to kind of be a team that tries to get into the playoffs? I just don't see a way with these veterans that you can completely bottom out and dump this and retool and do a complete rebuild. But at the same time, where are you at? How and where are you adding to this team? It just seems like they're stuck with nowhere to go. So, I'd like your thoughts on where you see this team going, moving forward.
For me, I think it starts with trading Panarin. I've been pretty vocal about the fact that they will most likely trade him this season. I don't think he'll finish the season in a Ranger jersey. And I don't think they should sign him because signing him will continue this progression of being stuck. Once you move on from Panarin, if the team, if they find a way to make the playoffs without him and if they get maybe a couple assets or younger pieces in return for him, great. I think they need to get younger. I think that's the most important thing. But if they miss the playoffs, I don't know what that means for Chris Drury. I don't know what that means for the conversations they'll have this summer, but I imagine, some of the guys who had the no move clauses, they'll have to have hard conversations this summer. Maybe guys do want to go elsewhere if that's the direction that the organization wants to go in. And then you kind of start from there. But I don't think we'll see any drastic change until the summer. Like obviously Panarin would be that number one thing, but I don't know if there's another move that needs to be made, and I'll let you guys go from here.
Arthur?
How about it, Rupper?
Yeah, I mean, just I think that call was pretty bang on. It is a middling team, and that's such a dangerous place to be. And there's a lot of teams that are kind of there. And we talk about whatever definition you want to give the league parity, this Eastern Conference, which I've never seen a year like this that we're seeing in the Eastern Conference. And all these things are tough to self-evaluate, but it's really important and imperative to do that. And I think this goes back a number of years as well. Like, first and foremost, if you're ever going to truly rebuild, which I don't know what the appetite, or if there is an appetite to do that for the Rangers, it's going to be very difficult to do that when you have the best goalie in the world.
Yeah.
It's just not going to allow you to do a full and proper teardown. If you want to do a teardown a la Chicago Blackhawks, Pittsburgh Penguins, like whatever, it's just not going to happen. So the other big thing is the Panarin thing is very interesting to me, because I think this team cannot afford to not sign him. But if they do sign him, I think it's just going to be more mediocrity with this team. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like this paradox of like, what do you do here? So something would have to give. Is it coming to a head here with Lafreniere? Is there anything to maybe some of the stuff over the last week or so or month with Adam Fox? Like, this is a lot of question marks. I think right now all this team's looking to do is just to make the playoffs. And but you nailed it though, Johnny. You talked about to Panarin, like, to make the playoffs. I don't think you do that without Artemi Panarin, but at the same time, if you're not going to get him signed or not going to sign him, you have to trade him. So it's kind of just this vicious cycle right now. I think the Rangers are caught in.
It's only going to get worse before it gets better. That's for sure.
Wow.
Yeah. Arthur, your thoughts?
I threw this out on Twitter the other day when I was kind of reviewing the Winter Classic game. And obviously you can't, that's a one-off, such a unique situation. It was good to see Mika Zibanejad break out like that. Mm-hmm. See a big smile on his face when Hank is putting that ridiculous looking chain around his neck in the post game. But I think about Mika Zibanejad and the way that he's kind of bounced back, and Mike Sullivan has put him with Panarin. That's their top line. They've played more together, I think, already this season than they have in any of the previous 6 seasons that they were teammates. Obviously, Mika had Chris Kreider for all that time, but Mika needs a guy. Needs like a really consistent, high-end support winger to be successful. I don't think he's a guy that's going to do it all on his own, especially at his age. He's got that in Panarin. If you trade Panarin, what do you do with Mika Zibanejad? And I understand that he hasn't always had the best numbers, and last year was a disaster, like it was for a lot of people. He still signed for a few years. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's got a no move. But you've got JT Miller, you've got Vincent Trocheck. I understand you've got a couple centers. They both can play the wing if they need to. You've got Mika, who seems to be better at center than he is on the wing, especially with a guy like Panarin. Is Laff going to be the guy that keeps him at that high level? Is it going to be Will Cooley? Is it going to be Alex Tuck if they bring him in free agency if Panarin goes? Like, I don't think so, man. Like, I think Mika plays well at his best with another similar high-level, high-skill guy. And if they get rid of Panarin, you're not getting another one like that. So now you kind of reduced Zibanejad's effectiveness too as an offensive player, and they need offense. So again, we're talking in big circles here. And Matt, the caller, I think, like you said, Rupert, bang on. You have on the one hand, you have some solutions, but they create new problems. And that is the sign of a team that is in it deep right now. And that's the thing, I guess Matty Mugno, my buddy, called me out because I'm too pessimistic about the Rangers, but even
But
Johnny
you're
would admit
accurate. Yeah, you're
it's
accurate.
it's hard to be optimistic right now, not just in the short term, but in the long term about where they go. It's just such an important time for them. And I don't know that are they going to pick the right door? Because I don't think the owner is up for another letter and another rebuild so soon after the last one.
Yeah. I do want to apologize because we only have like 25 minutes left that we can record. So we are going to skip Nicole and Tom, who left voicemails in regards to the Rangers, because we got to talk Islanders. So I do really just want to apologize. Maybe Nicole and Tom, we can get to your questions on Friday's show, but just for time purposes, we do have to get into a little bit of Islanders, and we have a couple of Islander voicemails. First, we'll start with Andrew. So Vic, why don't you cue that one up, please?
Hey guys, huge Islanders fan. Staple, always love the work that you did with the team. I have a couple of Islander rivalry questions. I'm glad you brought up the subtle rivalry with the Leafs. I personally hate them more than I hate the Rangers. I was a big HF Boards guy back in the day, and Leaf fans are by far the dumbest, most arrogant loser fan base in all of sports. And, the media is really no better, but they think they're entitled to every player. They don't believe in non-traditional hockey markets. I really can't stand them. And my hate was long before Tavares ended up on the Toronto Maple Leafs. I also wanted to bring up the Devils because they haven't really played each other in the playoffs since the 80s. They've never been good at the same time. And I think it could be a really cool local rivalry that it's been dormant for a long time. And another reason I bring this up is because I'm an Islander fan that lives in New Jersey. I have a newborn son, and I don't really care if he becomes an Islanders or Devils fan. That's completely his choice. But it'll be really interesting to see what the dynamic is of being an Islander fan living in New Jersey when they have an actual rivalry. So based on all that, I'm curious, what do you think would be a more impactful playoff series for the Islanders? Would it be playing the Devils or playing the Leafs?
Wow, that's a great call.
I love that one, Andrew. And I did talk about that in the wake of the Schaefer Magic on Saturday on Hockey Night in Canada, Saturday night when the Islanders beat the Leafs. I love this rivalry. And the Tavares situation obviously makes it what it is now. And it's funny we're talking about booing because Islander fans were into year 7 of year 8, I guess, of John Tavares being gone. And they still boo that guy every time he touches the puck.
As they should.
And I love it. And I like John a lot. And I know how much it hurt him that first game back when they were throwing the rubber snakes and everything. And I know his family was in the building. It was a very tough decision for him. Nobody wants to hear it. Because to my mind, as a fan, you got to hate somebody. You got to get that, the Devils fans did it the wrong way. They hated their own guy. Can't do that. You got to hate someone. And the Islanders, Rangers, Islanders, Devils, like Andrew was saying, we need a playoff series to really jazz that up. And the Leafs, I know it's been 20 plus years, but Rupper, you were just coming in the league, that 2002 first round series between the Islanders and the Leafs. I've talked to guys, whether it was Garth Snow, Eric Cairns, Shane Corson, Steve Webb, Peter Laviolette, even 20 years later, they say that was the most violent, most intense series they've ever been a part of. It was complete insanity, that series. So that is the formative moment, I think, for a lot of Islander fans who are season ticket holders now. And the Tavares decision and kind of that unearned rule the roost confidence that the Leafs have around the league, or the Leafs fans have around the league. Sorry, Vic, I got to say it. But it is, and it's so subtle and it doesn't really register, I think, with a lot of people. I think if you were just a fan, if you were a Hockey Night in Canada watcher, not a Leafs fan, not an Islander fan, you turn on the TV and you hear them booing Tavares, you're probably just like, huh, what? Like, what's going on there? What's the story? But I like that there's that little in joke among these two teams that they really fucking hate each other. And I love it because you see them mixing it up online. I would love to see a playoff series. The Islanders Devils would be great too, but to me, Islanders Leafs, and I think if you ask a lot of Islander fans, they would say the same. They want the Leafs in the playoffs because they want to really they'd be out for blood, and I love it.
I remember that playoff series. It was vicious. Yeah, I mean that was before I played in the league, but obviously watching playoffs and being a fan of the game. We talked earlier about how much, I guess, gumption, balls it took for Luke to come out and speak to the media yesterday. How about how much gumption and balls it took for Vic to play that message when he knowingly his fan base, his friends and family that root for the Leafs were just going to get shit on from that conversation. He still played it because you know why? Because he'll stand up and do what's right for the pod. Attaboy, Vic. That's all I got to say.
I think. Well, I mean, listen, that clip of Tavares watching Schaefer selling in overtime. I mean, that is something that Islander fans will have for quite some time. Like what a scene that was. But I think all of hockey fans, like not even just Toronto and New York, would love to see an Islander Leaf playoff series, right? I think that's like a storyline that any hockey fan has kind of fallen in love with. As Vic is right on cue. I mean, that is a great sight, right?
That's gonna hurt too, Vic. I know, because it's really brave of you. I like it.
But yeah, what a game that was on Saturday night. We could talk more in detail about it if you want to. I mean, Matthew Schaefer again just continues to rise to big occasions at 18 years old. I just don't know how much more we can like compliment him. It's really just become one of the best stories in hockey. I talked about it on Hockey Night in New York last night with you, Arthur. If you are a 10-year-old kid right now and you don't, or a 30-year-old man or a woman or a grandparent, however old you are, if you do not have any rooting interest in hockey and you turn on an Islander game, it's impossible to not fall in love with number 48 in blue or white. It is.
Yeah, I'm with you. We talk when we get to kind of the granular details of what the Islanders have been doing the last 3 weeks or so. The scoring's been down. Obviously, Horvat. That's right. Vic reminded us Tom Brady wants to hang out with Matthew Schaefer. So the GOAT wants to hang out with the new GOAT. But the Islanders just aren't scoring a lot. Horvat was out, came back. He's out again. They don't really have anybody to kind of like grab a game by the throat among their forwards. Barzal for sure, but he's more of a playmaker, setup type guy. But maybe they don't need it. You see basically like that goal, the tying goal in the Leafs game. Jonathan Drouin just leaves. It looked like a power play where they just like kind of do the drop back and let somebody come with speed. And he's doing it at 5-on-5. He's going around a guy in Morgan Riley, who I know maybe he's lost a step, but it's still Morgan Riley. It's the Islanders' version of Makar, McKinnon, and McDavid. Something they haven't seen for a long time, and to put the icing on the cake there with the great play by Barzal in overtime, and he finishes it off, and he's skating around on the ice. He's looking for Shannon Hogan, the MSG studio host, and she was off that night. Doesn't know where to go. Like you said, everything this kid does is just like it's adorable or it's impressive, and I think there's still Islander fans pinching themselves that this kid is going to be part of this for the next however many couple of decades, and what he's done so far, it's truly incredible.
So the one thing I just want to say, I mean, that what a performance in that game, and for it to happen against the team that that Schaefer grew up watching, and I think that's so cool. I mean, and that is really for me, like whenever I played against the Toronto Maple Leafs, it was a different game in the NHL. It felt different, whether you're playing on the road in Toronto or if you're playing at home. It just felt like, especially for Canadian, this is coming from an American guy, like a Canadian kid. You feel like the entire world's watching. So, but I know what I love too, and this is where my mind goes with it, is I think we thought, a lot of us thought that he very well could have made Team Canada, Matthew Schaefer. And he certainly could have, and I'm sure he's on the short list if anything goes down between now and the Olympics. But I love when there's quote-unquote snubs, whether it's an all-star game snub, Four Nations snub, Olympic snub, and you have a game right after like a decision for a team is made. And part of me thinks that this kid says all the right things, does all the right things, carries himself perfectly. I mean, watching him do his interview on Hockey Night in Canada was awesome. But there's still a little bit, and that's what makes greats great. There's a little bit of fuck you in him still. You know what I mean? Like, so you could receive that phone call from Hockey Canada, and you can sit there and be like, I'm sure the conversations where you've done everything in your power to, put yourself in this position, and man, in the future, you're going to be a big piece here. This is where we're at, blah, blah, blah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then you can go on the ice and shove it up their ass. And that's what I think he did here. And I don't know that I love that stuff. I think that the greats find ways to just find another level. And I thought that's what he did to end this game. It was awesome. I love watching this kid.
And we have another voicemail from Ariel, which I think kind of encapsulates the perfect end and bow of this conversation that we're having. So, Vic, if you can cue that one up as well.
Hey guys, quick question. I started really following the Islanders a year after Barzal's rookie season. So I didn't get to witness his 85 points in 82 games his rookie year, which to some that might be great because I would have probably been insufferable saying he was the next Connor McDavid. But anyway, I'm just curious if Barzal got the same hype that season that Matthew Schaefer is getting right now. Is there differences? Is there similarities? I'm just curious because I wasn't privy to Barzal's rookie season. I didn't follow the media or the analysts or any of the cards on Twitter. So I'm just curious if Barzal was getting the same amount of hype that Matthew Schaefer is getting right now. Thanks, guys. Happy New Year.
The cards were definitely not on Twitter then. Also, happy New Year to you, Ariel. But Arthur, you're the perfect person to answer this. I think you were following it closely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fantastic season, and I think people were pleasantly, real surprised. But there was so much other stuff going on that season. Doug Waite was got the endorsement to be the head coach after, deciding whether or not to go forward with him. New ownership, the current ownership had just taken over, so they were debating whether or not to keep Garth Snow. There was John Tavares going into his contract year. They were playing in Barclays in Brooklyn. There was so much other stuff swirling around. They had just come off missing the playoffs. They'd fired Jack Capuano after a pretty successful run in the middle of the previous season and nearly pulled off a big comeback. And the other part was the team just wasn't any good that year. They gave up a ton, played no defense. It was a frustrating season. There was all the undertones. It felt like the focus was more on whether Tavares was staying or going more than they've got this incredible kid here who, he's the kid who won the Calder. That was the famous quote from Tavares when he was referencing his old team after he left to go to Toronto. I think he forgot Barzy's name there for a second. So he was, he was incredible to watch, but I think there were so many other things to focus on and be concerned with. And obviously the summer after that, he wins the Calder, and then that's in the middle of Garth Snow being let go, Doug Waite being let go, Lou Lamoriello's coming in, a month before the award show. And then a few days later, Tavares signs in Toronto. So it didn't feel like it got its due. And this, to me, Matthew Schaefer is getting his due. And I think it's also the way that he's lifted up the team. Barzal has lifted up his team a lot over his time here, but I think as a rookie, unfortunately for him, even though he did win the trophy, he just didn't get his due maybe the way that Schaefer's getting it because of all this other stuff that was going on.
And do you think, again, because of where the Islanders were at the time, it was different? Like the Islanders, I feel like Schaefer has been more of a savior than Barzal was.
Yeah.
Like the Islanders had been in the playoffs, before Barzal came in. They had Tavares, who was kind of a star. And, while I think the world of Barzal, I think, nationally and maybe internationally, Barzal was not looked at as a star, but Tavares at the time was. So you look at those two situations, and Schaefer, I think, who said it? I think it was maybe Elliot Friedman said, oh my God, there was a specific word he used that was so good about Schaefer and what he's done to Long Island, but I'm not going to do it justice. But you know what I mean? Like what Schaefer has done to this organization and where they were at when he came in versus what Barzal did, where they were at when he came in, it's just a little bit of a different situation. So it's hard to kind of compare.
Yeah, I mean, this is a number 1 overall pick. Barzy was picked, 16th.
Yeah.
He went back to junior. So his rookie year was really his second year post draft, even though they were all, the organization was over the moon that they were able to select him. But this, it feels a little bit like, like you just pulled, you got your last quarter, you're walking out of the casino and you pull the lever and you win the jackpot. Like it's luck, and it's carried forward because this kid has really seized the moment. Barzal, I think the Islanders knew what they had in him, and they just had to wait for him to kind of his body to mature, his game to mature to an NHL level, and to mesh with some pretty good players. You think back to that team, even though they were a mess, they were a team that had Tavares, they had Josh Bailey, they had Brock Nelson, they had Anders Lee, they had guys who were prolific scorers for their time on the Islanders, and they just couldn't put it together to win games that year. So it felt like he's coming in, he's having an impact, but we still have all this other stuff to deal with. Matthew Schaefer's come in, no expectations, no real hype, because they didn't expect to have the ping pong balls fall the way that they did, and now and the expectations at the start of the season of maybe he'll stay, maybe he won't, maybe he'll be good, maybe we'll just kind of muddle through. He's just exceeded all that stuff. So it's just kind of the surprise factor, I think, is helping the hype here in this case.
Rupp or anything?
Yeah, I think that surprise factor, because I think this went from the Islanders were that one team locally. When are they going to get their first overall pick since Tavares? And they got it here. And there was a lot of questions because of the unknown with Matthew Schaefer. I mean, at the end of the day, I remember being familiar with him playing in Erie, the OHL, and I thought when he got drafted, worst case scenario, you're getting a defenseman that you could run out there 25 minutes, top four defenseman. I don't know if the points were going to be there. I didn't know much, because you never can really project. We've seen players, forwards playing Canadian Hockey League, to get 150 points. They end up being role players in the NHL. So you never really know what exactly you're going to get point production wise. But the skating was undeniable. But I mean, the fact that I think that the part of the hype too, what we're seeing is that there was a lot of conversation because of 17 games played last year. The prior year, only having like 15 points in like 50 games in the OHL or whatever that number was, like there was a lot of like, whoa, can this backfire? Could this potentially not be we've waited so long to get in a position like this. And I think the way he came in and just kicked the doors down and let everybody know right off the hop, this organization's in good hands, I think adds probably even more to this. And that's kind of what you're insinuating there, Arthur. But no, he's been so fun to watch. And just the story in itself, the way he carries himself, man, I'm here for it.
And I think the best thing, like I've been saying it kind of on and on, I feel like we're at the point now where he's almost impossible to give harsh criticism to. Like, even if he goes through a 20-game slump, like it's almost like, okay, well, we know this isn't who Matthew Schaefer is. Like, we already know what he is, right?
So hold on, though. Let me get this straight. Get this straight. So you're saying that if he gets an own goal, they're not going to boo him when he touches the puck?
He's
Just
definitely
to be clear.
Wait, also, I don't know if you guys saw, Michael Delzato, obviously a friend of ours, replied to my original tweet about booing a 22-year-old, and he just said, wait, let me pull it up. Shit, I just had it. Could have used this support back in the day, man. My man, ha ha ha. Like, because DZ is one of those guys who knows what it's like to hear the boos, but he's the best sport about it. Great guy. Any other thoughts about the Islanders? I know we probably didn't give the Islanders the graces they deserve today with that win on Saturday night. And again, like, I know Schaefer's getting the shine, but that play Barzal made in overtime, that was special. Barzal also played so well in that game. And again, like, he continues to rise his game this year, and I can't stop raving about him and how well he's played. Arthur, any timing on Sorokin?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
Supposedly,
give us something.
Supposedly he's gonna be back tomorrow for the Devils visit. You know, they go out on a 7-game roadie after that to through Nashville, Mini, Western Canada. So they need him back. You know, Riddick, obviously he wasn't very good against Utah on New Year's Day. He was pretty good against Toronto. I mean, you know, obviously Austin got him a couple of times, but I think it's, you know, 6 in a row for him. So you need to get back to Sorokin, and we need to see him back in there. But you know, you talk about Barzy too, and that rivalry. I think back to a game he had, one of the first time, maybe it might have been the first time.
He had a hat trick, right?
He had a hat trick up there. The first game that they went to Toronto after Tavares left. And you talk about, like, Rupper, you're talking about having the little fuck you in him. Matthew Barzal has got a barrel full of fuck you in him. And he knows, he would never admit it, but he knows when Johnny's there. He knows when they go up to Toronto, and he's not an Eastern Canada guy. He's not, he's a Western Canada guy growing up. But to be able to have guys like that who rise to the occasion and understand what it means to the organization, to the fan base, to beat this guy and this team, love having it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's going to wrap it up for today's show. We will be back on Friday, but before we do, just a reminder, this show is presented by Novig, the future of sports betting. On Novig, you play against other real users, not the house, and it's the only commission-free exchange, so you keep every dollar you win. You'll get better odds than traditional sportsbooks, meaning you are 10 times more likely to win in the long run. Choose the best odds or offer your own. Trade Novig coins for fun or Novig cash to win real prizes. Sign up with the code DailyFaceoff to get $50 in Novig coins when you spend $5 on your first purchase. Available in most states. You must be 21 or older to play, with no purchase necessary. Tonight, we're going to go with the New York Rangers on the money line at home. They're plus 101, so they are home dogs tonight, looking to continue the good vibes after winning the big game at the Winter Classic in Miami, which we didn't even really talk about that much on this show, but I think we can get to that maybe on Friday or whatever another time. But yeah, let's see what the Rangers are made of. Let's see if they can continue this little positive streak they got going. And Islanders Devils on Tuesday. We'll talk to you on Friday, and that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to Vic. Thanks to everybody who called in. Sorry to the two that we left off, but we'll try to get to those on Friday. Love you guys. Later. Hope you enjoyed that video, and if you want to see some more Tri-State hockey content, don't forget to leave a like and comment on the video below, and also subscribe to the Daily Faceoff YouTube channel.